Hi, welcome back to the second hour of this Thursday edition of Focal Point on AFR Talk. Got some fresh polling data for you before we go back to the phones. Ohio is considered to be a key battleground state, could even be the decisive state in the election. There's a Republican polling firm called Citizens United, and they now have Romney up today in Ohio by 3 points, 49-46. Wisconsin now is in play. That was considered a lock going into this election cycle by the Democrats. Citizens United has Romney down by 2 in Wisconsin, 49-47, but Rasmussen has got this poll dead even at 49. There's a Marist poll, which is juiced up because of their sample was skewed heavily toward Democrats. I think it's D plus 5, so they oversample Democrats by 5, and they've got Romney up by 3. Now, remember, Wisconsin is a state that Obama won in 2008 by 14 points. So the fact that this thing is now a dead heat is very significant. Rasmussen has Romney up in Colorado by 3 points at 50-47. In Iowa, Rasmussen has Romney ahead by 1 point, 49-48. In New Hampshire, Marist, which is a pro-Obama polling firm, they've got Romney only down 2, 49-47, which is inside the margin of error. So this thing looks like it is going to go right down to the wire, and I think there's good reason to be optimistic that the American people are going to choose for change on November 6th. Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Dimitri in Columbus, Ohio. Dimitri, welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Hi, Brian. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Okay, so what I want to do, actually just kind of bring up is that I'm from the former Soviet Union.
Uh-huh.
I came to the United States about 17 years ago. I was about 9 years old.
Wow.
But I remember coming to this country, and, you know, we were like, oh, we're going to a Christian country. Everybody's Christian there, and nobody's oppressed over there. We're not, you know, because in the former Soviet Union, we went through a lot. I don't know how much you know and heard about the Soviet Union, but Christianity wasn't very popular, and it still is not as popular till this day. So, you know, my grandfathers, a lot of my relatives, friends, they've been in jails, and, you know, they've been made fun of at school and all this other stuff. You know, basically Christians are really oppressed in that country. So coming to this country, we were looking for freedom. You know, we were really excited about that. When we came to this country, it was definitely a big difference. You know, and then after 17 years of living here, I see the United States going towards where the Soviet Union was at, and where pretty much Russia is at right now, where, you know, Christians are oppressed. And the big problem I see is that, and this is not just in the United States, this is pretty much around the entire world, that majority of Christians, they're lazy, and they usually wait till it's really, really bad before they start to do something. So, I mean, I'm looking at, you know, like what's going on right now with, you know, with the vote. And, I mean, it's so simple just to go out and vote, and people can't do something as small as that. You know, with the Christians I talk to, their biggest argument is usually, well, pretty much the Bible already talks about the end days and how it's going to end. So we're pretty much, no use of trying. It's going to get bad no matter what we do. So we're just going to sit around and wait for everything just to go bad and for Jesus to come and take us. And, I mean, what do you usually say to Christians that use that excuse of not doing anything, not taking any action, and just letting the devil slowly, you know, take over our schools and our government and all that? And their biggest excuse is that, oh, you know, this is how it's supposed to be. That's what Bible, Revelation already talks about this, so there's no use of doing anything. We're just going to sit around and watch for this to collapse.
All right, Dimitri, listen, I appreciate that observation. And I think a lot of Christians will just use that as an excuse for their laziness. Dmitry saying, look, what I've observed coming to the West, he came from Russia where there was genuine oppression of evangelical Christians, conservative Christians, and now he's seeing the same thing develop here in the United States. And he attributes a lot of that to the laziness of Christians who wait. Now, this is a guy from Russia. This is not a guy that grew up here. He's coming here expecting one thing, expecting a vibrant Christian nation, finding something different. Christians slowly having their rights bled away from them, their rights denied them, and they're indifferent about it. They're passive about it. They're watching it happen. They're allowing it to happen and justifying it on the grounds that the Bible, well, this is what the Bible said. Things are going to get worse. But don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, somebody uses that. Don't forget, Jesus said, no man knows the day or the hour. We have no way of knowing whether the return of Christ is going to be tomorrow or isn't going to be for 1,000 years. We got no way of knowing. Every generation of Christians since the first century thought they were living in the last days, and not one of them has been right. Every one of them thought Christ was going to come back during their time. Not one generation has ever been right because no man knows. So it's just an excuse for passivity and laziness. Let's go to Joan in Benton, Texas. Joan, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Yeah, Brian, you're a hard guy to get a hold of.
Well, I'm glad you made it through.
Yes, I'd like to tell you something. This came from my pastor, the church, and this is before Obama was elected. He had heard from the Lord, and he had said the next president would tear the United States down from the inside. Okay? Now, of course, we didn't know who it was at the time and stuff like that. Well, right after Obama had got elected, and of course he had it broadcasted all over, Europe and stuff, he was asked if he was a Christian. He says, yeah, I'm a Christian. And then he said, but I'm not one of those born-again ones. And he laughed.
Mm-hmm.
Laughed out loud.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a Christian, but he's not a born-again one. And I thought, well, if you don't believe in Jesus Christ, you're not really a Christian.
Yeah. All right, Joan, well, listen, I appreciate the call. And, I've been reading through 2 Kings, just finished doing that. We've been praying through 2 Kings here on the program. And one of the things you see there is the devastating impact that corrupt spiritual leadership has on a country. Manasseh was the worst king that Judah ever had. And even though he was followed by Josiah, who was a good and righteous king, what Josiah did, tremendous reform, spiritual awakening, recovered the Bible, reintroduced it to the people. It had gotten dusty and forgotten before Josiah came to power. But no matter what Josiah did, even though his reforms were dramatic and there was a spiritual awakening in the land, it was not enough to offset the damage that Manasseh had done through his wickedness, including filling Jerusalem with the shedding of innocent blood. I saw a piece on LifeSite News this morning, or lifenews.com, one of those, indicating that under President Obama's regime, 4.6 million babies have been aborted. So President Obama has filled the streets of Jerusalem, the streets of our cities, with the shed blood of the innocent. And that gets to a point where God says, look, judgment is going to have to fall. The only way to atone for the shedding of innocent blood is for blood to be shed. And I believe that's where we're headed. If we do not come to national repentance for our sin of abortion, there will be blood in our streets. Another civil war. Back in 2.